Yo, it's the All49ers show. That's Jose Sanchez. I'm Grant Cohn. Question of the day. It's a question of the day, like Pee Wee's Playhouse or
Yeah.
Sesame Street. Are the 49ers making the Jimmy Garoppolo mistake all over again? Think about it. We're going to get there later. I'm not telling you what I mean by that, but are they making the mistake again? We'll get there. I want to start first with the schedule because Jose and I didn't do a show last week. This is our first time to discuss what you think the Niners are looking at. People are starting to realize that it's a tougher schedule than last year in a lot of ways. And the Niners on paper seem like a better team, if not, definitely not a worse team than last year. But what do you look at how many wins do you see on the schedule, and what do you think of this lack of rest the 49ers are going to get?
Well, addressing that lack of rest thing, that was a nice little stat. I feel like every year there's always like something new that comes out in the schedule. It's like these guys are either creating it or they're withholding all this information, and it's like now we're trying to drop in some new little blurbs out there so everyone can like feast upon. Yeah, that was kind of crazy stuff. What was it, the net rest day? I think they're minus 20, like they're by far like the worst in the league, right? Right. I think that's based on because they're facing 4 teams coming off bye weeks, right? I think it's the Bengals, but I think if you actually look at the teams who they face, it's not really that big a deal other than the Bengals, right? Bengals are pretty raw, and then I think they're facing the Cardinals at one point. They're not really facing like a bunch.
Yeah,
of
the Cardinals could have like 8 years to prepare for that game. It probably wouldn't make a difference.
It could be with the Niners hobbling a bunch of players into that game, and they might still win. Yeah. So I think ultimately it's going to be hard to tell in terms of the context you go into that game because, like, okay, what kind of Niners team we're seeing all healthy and stuff like that. Because I think ultimately I think it's something that teams have been facing for a minute now. Like in terms of like, oh, this team has more rest and this rest, and it's like, has it really been that much of detrimental to the team's success in winning the game or losing the game, So I think in this sense, it's almost going to be like if the Niners do lose, this is going to be used almost as an excuse when it's like, no, yeah. It's not an excuse. I don't give a damn about those rest things. Like this, I feel like most likely it's been an issue all along, and it's just finally getting revealed if someone actually did the math about it. So I think like in this sense, you're fine. So I think no, I don't care about the 49ers. They have high expectations. They should still be a 10-12 win team.
Sure, absolutely. And I believe I had them winning 10 games. Maybe that's on the low end. I think 11 wins is a reasonable prediction. Even 12 wins. You could sell me on that. This team winning 12 wins, 12 games. But to me, like, this is going to be grueling. They're going to have to work really, really hard to get those 12 wins if they get them. Even if they get 11 wins, it could be more exhausting than the 13 wins were last year. And then you get to the playoffs. Are you the 1 seed with 11 wins or 12 wins? Probably not. So you'll have maybe 1 home game, maybe 2, but you probably won't have a bye week. You're going to have to go on the road eventually. Like, you've played 40 games in the last 2 years. It's hard. It's tough. A lot of reasons not to bet on the Niners to win the Super Bowl this year, although are they the favorite in Vegas?
No, they're not the favorite. There's no way.
No.
I think they're like their top 3 favorite, I'm pretty sure. I think it might be even higher than the Eagles. I think it might be
right
Chiefs.
Now. Which team? What's your hot take? I'm not pinning you down here, but if like before training camp starts, just looking at these rosters, what team do you think it should be the favorite this year?
Kansas City. Kansas City.
Okay, I have a hot take. I've been playing around with it, but I'm not committing myself to it. But I want to say that Cincinnati's the favorite this year because they stole Orlando Brown from the Chiefs.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. Didn't they? I think they had someone else on. Did they have someone else on defense? Or
they lost Jesse Bates though. They lost Jesse.
Jesse Bates. That's a nice thing.
I don't know. And Burrow's just not as good as Patrick Mahomes. Just not.
Well, right. I mean, again, that would be a hard take, right? If he does enter in this next year's and like somehow it's like, wow, this guy's like just turns into Phoenix mode and rising above the ashes of last year's like failure in the playoffs, and he's just all of a sudden just going straight Super Saiyan right now.
Yeah, season. I mean, the Chiefs lost. They lost their left tackle. They lost Hardman. I mean, they can replace Hardman, but so they have Donovan Smith as their left tackle right now. He led the league in holding penalties last year, and they drafted Wanya Morris.
Starting tackle last year. He was pretty bad.
Like, I'll always bet on the Chiefs to win unless they start losing offensive linemen. Then I'm like, because the rest of your team isn't that great. It's like your quarterback, your O-line, your tight end. Like, that's your team. You start losing players in that O-line, I'm like, But still, I bet against them last year too because they lost Tyreek. I was wrong.
That was brutal. This one, at least I'll give you. You have a good sense of why they're not going to hit. It's like, oh, left tackle's more weighted than a wide receiver. I thought the hate for the Chiefs last year was I had Mahomes foregone like MVP. I was like, oh, I can't wait for this guy to get doubted. Then,
oh
the
yeah,
receiver does not make Mahomes.
Never going to happen again. Yeah, it's true. All right. Ahkello Witherspoon is available. The Pittsburgh Steelers are releasing Ahkello Witherspoon. The Niners could use some depth. They drafted him in the 3rd round. He fell out of favor. He was backing up Emmanuel Mosley, who's now gone. And now, I mean, it's Diamador Lenore and Darrell Luter Jr. This guy is 28, just turned 28, has started 40 games in the NFL. Last year, he gave up a quarterback rating of 126.1, which, I mean, could have been worse. Could have been worse. What do you think?
I've actually followed a little bit of Ahkello since he's left the 49ers when he went to Pittsburgh specifically. And I think I remember, not this past season, but 2021, I think towards the same thing, towards the tail end of the season, I think he played very strong on the down stretch. 49ers fans have heard that before. Ahkello playing strong down the stretch. Wow. And then sure enough, when the expectations are there and everyone's wanting more from him, seeing to compete, whatever, and then he just fails to take advantage, take that leap. And that's been the epitome of his career, right? It just fails to take that leap. It's like he's there. The guy's there all the time, even in coverage. Like he's there, he's good in coverage, but he doesn't go after the ball, and he's over there getting mossed or over there getting beat by Stephon Diggs. So no, stay away from this guy. This is not someone that's familiar. Plus, I'm pretty sure the way the two sides were leaving off of each other, it was good for a divorce, if I recall. Like I was like, no, it's time for these guys to move on. I remember Ahkello, because at that point, again, back then, Ahkello was doing good. People wanted him back, and it's like I think at this point they're just done. I think Ahkello was done getting like bodied by Kyle Shanahan, getting put in the doghouse, because this guy was the #1 doghouse player for Kyle Shanahan next to Dante Pettis back in the day. So I think this is the one that there's no way to reconcile. I think the Niners just like, this is what we thought. And Ahkello is just like, I think Ahkello would say yes, because I think at this point he's looking at a very hard. He's looking at training camp body status now at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple weeks at the beginning of 2019 when he looked like he was better than Richard Sherman. He had like a pick 6. He looked really good and really confident. He had a really good offseason. Then he got hurt, came back, and I don't think he was 100%, but no excuse. You're on the field, and he gave up some big plays, got benched. I don't think he ever recovered mentally. Like, he seemed like he lost his confidence. And remember, the Niners were split on drafting him. Lynch was against it, and they were like, he just doesn't tackle like I think people on our defense should tackle. And they sort of talked him into it, and then I think he never really overcame that. And then you look at like Mosley was so ferocious as a tackler for a guy who was way smaller than Witherspoon. I just don't think Witherspoon fits the kind of. No, I don't know. Maybe Steve Wilkes has a different opinion of Ahkello Witherspoon, but whoever liked Ahkello Witherspoon on this team 5 years ago is not on this team anymore.
Yeah, and if you want to take the Wilkes perspective, Wilkes might be an advocate of him just because he likes to. He's more better suited to play man, right? To get up in there and face, and that's something maybe Wilkes might do a little more of. Or at least call more situations. But I think at this point, it's like if the Steelers are saying are canning him now, players who get canned now, that's always like, okay, like you're just interchangeable like that, huh? But obviously, if you're bringing Ahkello in, there's more just for depth because obviously your starters are Traverse Ward, Diamador Lenore. You hope Luter competes. You hope Tyree Castle Fields competes. Whoever else in the back end, all these players, then you throw him in the mix. Maybe you get that veteran presence. Like an old school Dante, like he would be this year's Dante Johnson, I guess, if he were to bring Ahkello in.
Like Ahkello has all the measurables. If you look at him, he's 6'3", long arms, super quick, super explosive, fast. Like he has literally all the measurables, but he hasn't worked out because he just doesn't seem mentally or physically tough enough for the NFL. And isn't that the story of Ambry Thomas right now too? Like they already have a guy like that on the team who's a 3rd round pick who's on the verge of washing out. I think the Niners have figured out like what kind of profile they need for players to work on this team. You got to be super mentally and physically tough to fit in on a team with Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, and I just don't think Ahkello fits. I don't think he does.
No, because again, even though he's not a starter, everyone needs to pretty much resonate from most of the top to bottom. Again, it's always about that locker, that culture fit, right? You want to see if it's going to be a piece of the puzzle, and that's something he's never had, dude. His mentality has just been always so volatile. That's one thing I just hate. It's like that's why I was always like a Ahkello Witherspoon defender with the 49ers. It's like, dude, he's got the body of work. The guy just He's just confident.
He has the athleticism. He has the
Confident.
frame. Yeah, it's the confidence. It's like with corners, you play corner, right?
Yeah, you have to be confident. You can't be scared or nothing like that. You have to be like, you have to be tough. You have to be a savage. You have to be
You have
like,
to believe you're great. Like when Richard Sherman would get beat, he wouldn't get down on himself. He'd be like, well, I'm still the best. I don't know how that happened. It's not going to happen again. When Ahkello would get beat, it's almost like you could see it being like, here we go again. Here we go again. It's like, nah, man, like if you don't believe in yourself, then you need to sit down because no one believes in you, man. You got to believe in yourself.
That's why the biggest signs of always like to me when I see like corners who are always there in place and just like when the ball's like getting close to them and they get like deer in the headlights, that's how I know they're scared. Or like Traveris Ward towards the end in the playoffs, especially when he's like, why is this guy playing 11 yards off? And I'm watching Amador playing 4 yards off. Those are always the two top signs to me that always telling me like this guy's in his head. Like he got beat. Oh, and then all of a sudden he's scared to get put in that situation. You abandon technique, you freak out. That's always.
Thank you for bringing that up with Traveris Ward. The guy didn't get tested all year, and then at the end he gave up a few catches, and it looked like he freaked out.
Mainly towards especially the just the streakers, I would say. Like those are the ones I really like because those are the ones I really like as a corner, just like stab your soul. And it's like, oh God, I let my teammates down because he played Devontae Adams like the weeks before that. And he had great coverage on Devontae Adams in the end zone, right? It was like, God, this guy has good coverage. Just Devontae Adams, just a freaking legend.
Yeah.
There's no way to like, he didn't let that bother him, but it's the gashers. It's the ones
the one he gave up to DK in the playoffs was gross.
That's what I'm saying. Like those ones
crushed.
Demoralizing.
Yeah. I mean, he got smoked and then he was like a couple yards off and he turned to find the ball. It's like, no, man, catch up. You're not in position to make a play on the ball. And then you lost another step trying to find it and then it's touchdown. That was bad. And never after that, I thought he was shook after that play. So I don't know.
That play is just pretty much just like, all right, you're beat. Shell technique, play through their hands.
Exactly.
Damage. That's why I hate when like turn around. It's like no, he's not turn around when he's 2 yards. Then you can't. Then it's
it's a touchdown.
1 second to turn around, and then another 2 seconds to locate the ball. At that point,
that's right.
You got beat. How do you handle crisis control? Pretty much, it's pretty much PR control in that sense. In a corner, play through the hands.
You should know that, man. You're one of the highest paid corners in the league. You're elite. You should know that.
Out. It's hard. That's why it's like high stress situations. It's the same thing when we talk about like with the quarterback situation. It's like, dude, like granting these reps for Trey and the practice is great, but he needs to get out in the game because that's not the way you're going to replicate those high stress situations with him and see how he fares. Yeah, and Travarius is like he's been in, he's won a Super Bowl, but I don't know. Whatever happened at the end of last season, he didn't respond well, and now you got a new DB coach. Love to know what Steve Wilkes thinks. Niners Super Bowl too against Emmanuel Sanders. I know he was back there. I don't know if that was him specifically, but I know he was back there. Good point. He did get beat, right? He 1000% was back there. I just don't know if that was necessarily. I think it. Good question. It might be. Joseph Stockridge says, "Can you post these to Spotify soon?" Sorry, I got a little hung up the last couple of days. But yes, I'll do it right after. From now on, every show. Come on, I don't know who wants to hear it. All right. OTA start next week, and a lot of it is meaningless, right? A lot of it's just guys working out. It's May. Like, it's easy to sort of get caught up in things that don't matter. Some of it does matter, though. Like, what do you think are things fans should take away from these next few weeks? It's really hard for me to take anything away, to be honest, like you said, because number one, like, right, there's a quarterback competition supposedly supposed to kickstart next week, right? And OTAs is the first step because they're finally on the field. They get to show their stuff, mainly to you and your peers. But it's like, the first team isn't there. The first team on both sides of the ball isn't there. They're not really going full speed. They're not doing too many reps. Like, how much of it can you really evaluate? So I don't think the competition starts now. It starts in training camp. But the one and only thing I think that can be taken away from OTAs, the one and only thing, is how the 49ers, is how Kyle Shanahan splits the reps of the quarterbacks. How does he split the reps between Trey Lance and Sam Darnold? That is all that it should be taken away, because nothing about performances. Like, sure, you can get giddy, like, oh, this looked good. Like, yeah, it's good, but we'll see in training camp when the starters are there, we can get a real evaluation when it really matters, when the players can start nudging Kyle Shanahan and be like, hey, that Sam Darnold dude looks a little good. Right, like, it's voluntary. A lot of these starters aren't going to be there, and even if they do, they may not even play. Like, if Fred Warner shows up as a captain, the Niners could be like, cool, man, here's some shorts. Here's a clipboard. Why don't you just limiting the hell out of them? Yeah. You're not getting much. You're not going to get much of anything. This is pretty much just for depth people. Played 20 games in the last 20 months. Jennings looked amazing. That's what you said, right? Or wait, was it Brandon Ayuk? Excuse me, Brandon Ayuk. You said Jalen Jennings did not look that great.
Jennings drops everything in the offseason. He's a gamer.
Yeah, so that's the moment that, like, Brandon Ayuk, that was one who needed to step up, right? Who really needed to show something. I was like, okay, goddamn, look at him.
And he did. And you could see his body. Like, you could see he was prepared from the that's what I look for. Like, which young guy is taking the leap from young and promising to legit pro? You know, like, I'm in the best shape of my life. I look like the best player on the team. I'm going to prove it every day. There's always a few guys, like Talanoa, you could see it early on. Like, okay, this guy looks different. His body is in better shape. He looks like a vet. He doesn't look like a rookie anymore. Which young guys transform their body and have done it, have put in the work the last 3 months? You can't fake that. People have said Drake Jackson has. I mean, I think there's some pictures of him. I want to see it in person. We're going to talk about him in a minute. That's important. Like, because I remember Fred Warner, year 1 to year 2, looked totally different. George Kittle was another one. Who's the guy? Talanoa, who's the guy this year that's going to look? Aaron Banks was like that. Who's the guy?
I think early on, especially OTAs, it's mainly going to be skill position players, right? The 7-on-7s, secondary players. I'm not sure how much.
They won't have 11-on-11s much.
If they do. Like Jake Jackson, the only thing you're going to be able to read in from Jake Jackson is his physique. That's it. That's all.
Yeah. That's all I want to know. Because last year I saw it at rookie minicamp. I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. You're not going to contribute much this year, are you, Drake? Are you, Drake? And he didn't.
I was like, what?
Like, hey, I don't know, bud. But now people say he looks, I want to see that, because if he is, then he's got a chance. You got to do this football. You got to be really strong in the trenches, man.
All right, who do you think it's going to be then?
I'm banking on. I think Drake's.
I think OTAs only OTAs. Like, who's going to be like?
I think Drake's going to look good. I think. Who else we got?
Okay, how about the only ones who are actually going to, like, contribute during that session for 7-on-7, like receivers, corners, safeties, running backs, I guess.
Danny Gray.
That's what I was going to say.
Is Ambry Thomas gonna finally look like? No.
I don't think so.
No,
he's buried.
I don't think so either. Think so.
The guy, Kyle Shanahan.
He was awful last year.
I'll drive this guy into the depth chart.
He was so bad in training camp last year. Ambry Thomas. It was crazy. He gave up like a 90% completion percentage. It was unreal.
I remember
he wasn't even in the zip code.
Like, God,
I remember asking the cornerback coach Corey Unlin about him, like halfway through camp. Like, how's Ambry doing? He's like, oh, he's doing a lot better, man. He's been a lot closer. A lot closer.
A lot closer. Okay.
Been a lot closer. Yeah.
It's been bad, but it's just some good.
I mean, Ty Davis Price. Like, are you on the way out here, or are you like? Do you understand what's at stake? Did you see what happened to Trey Sermon? What do you got? Because, like, last year, Jordan Mason looked like he was in better shape than you the whole time. So can you close the gap there? Otherwise, you're gone. Because Kalen Laburn looks like he's in great shape right now, too. Also, Elijah Mitchell, I want to see. He's so good, but it seems like he hasn't been able to find that whatever routine that it takes to be durable in the NFL. I don't know if he can do it, but now's the time, man. Mitchell. McCaffrey can do it.
Is he going to be there or be doing much? They might just have him just like. That's the one thing I'm thinking about. That's, again, see, this is why like all the excitement of the quarterback. It's like, dude, are we sure Mitchell's going to get much run in? Are we sure these? It's like he's going to be thrown to Danny Gray, that Twitter guy that they brought in, wide receiver.
I just want to say with Mitchell real quick. Like, if he's at his best, if he takes a leap forward, is a little bit stronger, a little more durable, he's the best running back on the team. Like, nothing against McCaffrey, and McCaffrey should get more snaps because he's such a great receiver. But in terms of just straight up carries, you could argue that Mitchell should be getting like at least one more carry a game than McCaffrey, considering he's so freaking good. He's so good. Excellent. He's terrific. Outstanding.
Didn't we establish like one's better than the inside and one's better than the outside, right?
They're both. I don't know. I just feel like Mitchell just gets a little bit more after contact. He's a little bit more. I don't know.
That's probably why he gets hurt a lot. He's over there just bumbling, stumbling, rumbling, as Chris Berman would say. Like, he just it makes sense, right? Why he's getting hurt.
Last year, if I remember correctly, he didn't participate in OTAs. He was coming off a knee surgery, and he spent a lot of the offseason rehabbing. This year, theoretically, he spent the entire offseason working out and getting stronger. If that's the case, we'll see it next week. And if he's like, if he's finally looking like a 25-year-old NFL running back, man, the Niners might just start fast this year with some good running backs. Because remember, again, 2021, Raheem Mostert goes down in his second carry. 2022, Mitchell goes down on his sixth carry. What's going to happen in 2023? If they keep their running backs healthy for the first couple of months, they might just win in spite of whatever else is going on in offense.
Yeah, and then 2021 was bad. I remember that was just a duct tape patchwork job the first 6 weeks of the season. That was crazy. Oh my God, they're bringing in Jox Patrick from the Bengals, the dude who just played in the XFL.
The XFL, Jaquez.
Oh, excuse me, Jaquez, sorry.
I think he went by Jaquez. Well, yeah, I have his jersey.
49ers legend. My bad, can't disrespect him.
Yeah. So, what are you going to take away from OTAs? Yeah, I think it's just who's been working out this offseason, who hasn't. I remember a few years ago. I think it was the Chip Kelly year. Aaron Lynch. Remember Aaron Lynch?
Mm-hmm.
I had gotten a tip off. I'm not going to say who it was from someone who'd been around. Said, "Hey, have you seen Aaron Lynch?" I was like, "Nah." He was like, "Hey, he's big." Just want to say, I don't know what happened. They were counting on him to be a good player. I saw him at OTAs. He was big. He looked like he was at least 280. I wrote it. A bunch of insiders said I was wrong, and I was just making it up. Then we interviewed him, and he said, "Yeah, well, my wife's pregnant." And he was talking about sympathy eating. You ever heard of sympathy eating? She's eating a lot, so I got to eat too. Otherwise, and the PR director was like, "All right, man, that's enough. That's enough." I was like, that was about the end for Aaron Lynch. So yeah, you can kind of see who's been taking it seriously all offseason. Full-time job.
Most of them. They haven't really had too many of those problems though, right? With like most of the players. Like who's the problem like this time last year? OTA is walking in is like, is this guy taking it seriously? Or like, I don't think they usually have those guys.
No, those guys aren't on the team anymore. Aaron Lynch was on the team. I think he was on the team when Shanahan first got here. Remember when they put in that hill that's still there? And they used to, like, if you were hurt, you had to like do stuff on the hill. You had to like do army crawls backwards up the hill. These like 300-pound guys. And Buckner was doing it, and they're all trying to do it. It was ridiculous. Ronald Blair was doing it. Aaron Lynch did it for like 2 minutes, and I remember him saying, earmuffs. He said, "Fuck this shit," and walked off. It was so funny. That being said, I don't think he made the team.
They're making them do workouts like they're in high school.
Yeah, it was dumb. And then they fired that guy shortly after. Sports writing or YouTube, a more lucrative career? YouTube.
Do both.
Both though. You want multiple revenue streams. But look at people who are making it on YouTube and the cars they drive, and then look at journalists who write for sports magazines or websites or newspapers in the cars they drive. That's all I'm saying.
Screw you. I drive an Infiniti.
You drive a really nice car, but you also have many revenue streams that I don't know.
Yeah, people in the streets know what we're doing.
You're just really good at sports gambling, aren't you? You just pick the winners. All right.
Yeah, like
we talked about him a second ago.
Unlike you.
What are your expectations? What are your expectations for Drake Jackson this year? Do you think he's going to put it all together and be a major factor? Or do you think by the end of training camp, the Niners are like, you know what? We're going to sign Leonard Floyd.
I feel like they might have to sign Leonard Floyd no matter what, right? Because you need to have hedge your bets, get a contingency plan. Because what's the contingency plan if Jake doesn't pan out? What are you going to do? You're going to wait.
Cleveland Farrell, Austin Bryant, Kerry Hyder Jr.
Cleveland, I can't bend the edge. Farrell, like, come on, dude. Jesus, that guy. He should have been drafted the same round as Drake Jackson was last year. No, they need to really like consider. I think this is what they're waiting for in training camp. They're going to tell early on, but I'm just wondering, can you really tell early on, right? Because Drake Jackson, his issue was they kept saying he fell off, he tapered as the season went off.
Yeah,
he strength waned as like after the second half of the season, he became unplayable. And it's not like he was making much of an impact anyways, but there was probably maybe 1 to 4 nice plays he was making. I wouldn't say so.
It's like you can't defend the run, you can't set the edge, and you're not really making much of an impact as a pass rusher. So it was like he's like the Jordan Poole of the defense,
right?
He's like the Jordan Poole of the team.
Replacement.
Yeah, like what do you do? What do you do well?
And I'm not sure how much that's why I'm saying that they had to sign someone regardless. How much are you really going to tell in training camp if he's there? Like not unless you use your assessments from last year, weighing measuring the strength he was, but I'm not sure how much they can actually replicate that in terms of what would be in the game. Because this is the main issue. Did he add more did he add more to his arsenal? Is he not just more a speed rusher? Did he add more finesse, more slap of the hand, spin moves, something like that can give him more encouragement that he's going to be an impactful player, someone who gives him 5 sacks this year and hopefully 8, because I think that's what the range they want him to be, 5 to 8. because he needs to be someone that actually, because that's the D forward magic number, right? From that 2019 year. So he gave him those 5 to 8 sacks, and he was always good for like 5 to 8 impactful plays a game. Because he rushes the passer, the opportunities are there. He needs to take advantage of them because the bar's been set high. Like Steve Wilkes just talked last week, and he just added more to this guy's plate. Like he said, a lot of inconsistencies from his rookie year, but we're expecting more out of him. And everyone just keeps upping the ante on this guy. And it's like, God, if this guy is not pretty damn good, he's a failure for this year.
Yeah, I never really understood the projection with Drake Jackson. Like, he's an edge rusher that fell to the end of round 2, and the Niners acted like they got a first-round pick.
It kind of seemed like a consensus, because I remember being at the draft, that sounded like it was echoed. Like, God, that was a damn good pick. He could have been the first.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was weird when I heard that. I was like, if he could have been the first, why did he go a whole round?
Yeah, I don't know why the media was all about it, but on NFL.com, Lance Zierlein gave him a third-round draft projection and compared him to Eli Harold. So there is a little bit of disagreement here, and this is a guy that had 12.5 sacks in college in 3 years. Like, he wasn't a dominant pass rusher by any means. He had 5 sacks his final year at USC. He never had more than 5.5 sacks in a season. And so I was kind of like, what is the projection here? And then the Niners take him. They have Chris Kaserik. You figure, they'll figure it out. They'll get the best out of him. So I asked Kaserik last year, and it seemed to me that he made it real clear that the projection was the Arden Key role. They'd lost Arden Key. He was a big factor in their success the year before. And he's like, if you look at Drake Jackson, like most of his sacks at USC, Kaserik said this, came in the interior, either lined up as a D tackle or looping to the inside. And I feel like the same thing was true of his rookie year with the Niners. Most of his pressure came either lined up in the interior on third down or looping to the inside. So now all of a sudden he's an edge rusher. Like, he didn't even test. He didn't even run. Does he have that athleticism, or is he more of a tweener? I look at him as a tweener. I don't know. And that's what I thought they looked at him too. I don't know.
Maybe he registered fine on the GTFO scale for the 49ers. That's what he did. So, I mean, I think the more like you're talking, because the more I've been thinking about from that first time when he got drafted and seeing his seasons, the words has been said, and then even you saying it's like, was he just pretty much like another projection pick that the 49ers thought? Like, he had the body of work. He's pretty raw, but we love what he has there, and we think the ceiling's high, which resonates Trey Lance and all these other players that keep taking. Like, we see this, and we think he's closer than he is farther, when it's like, no, it looks like he's farther than he is closer in terms of reaching that. And again, you guys are jumping the gun, wanting like a finished product as soon as you get your hands on him, but that's not the reality, you know? And I think that's something that's happened, that there might be a sense of arrogance that they get because they've hit on those 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round players that turn into those guys within the first year. And I think you got Drake Jackson falling under that umbrella, but I do think he could be very solid this year. Again, 5-day sacks is something that the way they're talking about him, that's what they sound like it. But they just need him to be an impactful player. The 20 snaps is going to take, just do something with 5 of them that are like pretty damn good, like almost game changing, and then we're all good.
Yeah, I just don't understand what they saw in Drake to begin with. Like, he's not super big. He didn't run. Like, what did he do? He could do backflips, right? Backflips.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I'm a little skeptical here. It seemed like you drafted him to replace Arden Key, and now you're pivoting because you need a defensive end. But I don't really know that he has that skill set. It seems like Robert Beal has it, but I don't know that he's good at football. I don't know. They may need to sign Leonard Floyd or Yannick Ngakoue at the end of this training camp. I'm sure they'll give Drake Jackson every opportunity to show that he can do it, but I'm just a little skeptical that he can do it.
I think it's gonna be figured out like within like the first 2 weeks of the thinking like, oh god, like I think something because that's when they really grind, especially when the pads come on. That's where they really grind them. I think that's one thing the training camp really learns about is the Chris Kaserik actually and offensive linemen. They actually let those guys when the ones let them go at it. They yell at them. And they do. Those are the ones that really get in it. I think that's the ones you can really assess that. So that'd be an interesting group to actually keep an eye on in training camp. You know, so
we're gonna see a lot of Colton McKivitz versus Drake Jackson 1-on-1 in training camp. How's that going to go? And what was it going to tell? Like, if first of all, if Drake Jackson can't beat Colton McKivitz, that's a problem. That's a problem. So he's going to have every day against Colton McKivitz. Can you beat Colton? And then if Colton can't block Drake Jackson, that's a problem. That's going to be a very interesting. How do you interpret the winner and loser to that? It's like,
that's
to see.
It's like, is Jackson bad or is Colton good?
Exactly.
Is it both?
Exactly.
Or I think if you're the 49ers, you're hoping that it's Colton's just really good, even if Drake is bad. That's the one you really need. You need Colton to pan out more than Drake any day of the week easily. That'd be all bad.
Yeah, if it ain't Colton, it's nobody. Glass half full guy says, I'm really hoping Trey Lance balls out this year, and I do think anointing Purdy after 8 starts is Jimmy all over again, in my honest opinion. Let's see more first. I'm not even talking about Brock. I was actually, let's get to it now. The title of the show, the title of the show are the Niners making the Jimmy G mistake all over again. I'm thinking in terms of Sam Darnold, because we're hearing every week another person. Now it's Louis Riddick talking about how the Niners are really high on Sam Darnold and they feel he's turned his career around, and it's based on the last 6 games of last season. The last 6 games on the Carolina Panthers. Mm-hmm. Sam Darnold they're 3-8. Sam Darnold rides in, and all of a sudden they go on they win some games. And the Niners are thinking, boom, look at that 6-game stretch, right? Look at that 6-game stretch of meaningless football for a team that was out of it. I mean, they may not have been like mathematically eliminated, but they were 3-8.
They were down there to the wire, I think.
They were 3-8. They weren't going freaking anywhere. I mean, they would have had to run the table. You can't go to the playoffs with 9 losses. They would have had to run the table. They wasn't happening. So, I mean, sure, it was a cool little story, but essentially was them playing out the season on a team that was tanking, and they won some games. Great. Like, that's a nice story. They didn't quit. But that's the same reason they gave Jimmy Garoppolo the contract that they gave him. They made him the highest paid player on a 6-year deal because he came onto a team that was 1-10 and won 5 games. Like, yeah, that's cool, but at the same time, it doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter at all. And that's why I feel like the Niners are making the Jimmy Garoppolo mistake again. Like, it's 6 games, guys. It didn't really matter. What are they going to do this year? That's the way I look. What do you think?
Well, they're not paying him $100+ million. So that's thank God for that part. That's all. Yet,
Jose.
Oh, shut up! Don't say that. Don't say that. We're all screwed then. But no, that's the one. That's the one. Thank God moment. Because other than that, like, yeah, there's some similarities to that, like the limited sample size. And I mean, look, like the person who just asked that question is like, it is true. These guys are a limited sample size. When Purdy 8 starts, they saw something with Darnold. But of course, I think Darnold too, at least they definitely had McCaffrey and Wilkes advocating for him and giving them information. Obviously, they gave him rave reviews. I doubt if either of them were like saying to Darnold that they're actually really trying to sign him like that. So I think that'd be like the only other blemish on that comparison. But yeah, this is just what these guys are, the limited sample size. So either pull the plug on someone or be bought all in.
I just want to remind you, the Niners traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. He was 26. He went on and won those 5 games on a team that was out of it, and they were so impressed. Sam Darnold's 25. He played on a team that was out of it and didn't quit, and they won some games, and the Niners are so impressed because he battled and he found a way to win. It's like, okay, guys, you didn't learn your lesson? You really didn't learn your lesson the first time? I mean, even people that advocate for Sam Darnold be like, man, he's just like Jimmy G. It's like, okay, like, is that good? He's like Jimmy G, but with a little bit more mobility. Like, okay, so you can't trust him at all? Like you got to take the game out of his hands all the time and just hand off because you can't trust him to make 2 decisions in a row? Like, great. Let's bring that guy back on the team. That's what I feel like they did. It's about the same age. About the same. Because Jimmy didn't have to. Look, the difference between Jimmy and Sam Darnold is Jimmy didn't have to play for the Jets and the Panthers. He just sat and did nothing behind Tom Brady and had this aura like, oh my God, he's going to be so good. I heard in practice. He's so good. Even though he's not. Darnold, everyone's seen Darnold. But if you just focus on his last 5 starts.
I think we've talked about at the point how many games the 49ers could win with Darnold or something around that spectrum, or how would the offense operate. And I'm pretty sure, like I said, yeah, I think they'll be fine. But if it's one read and not there, it's over with. It's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo all over again. Actually, now that we're talking about, I remember saying that if the first reel is not there, it's like, where do I go now? Where do I go now?
Yeah. Do you trust him? If the first read isn't there, do you trust Sam Darnold to do the right thing and make a good decision? I don't.
No. When has he ever shown any promise? That's the thing I don't get where all this is coming from. So all of a sudden he has this reclamation project, this whole like heroes comeback. All of a sudden that's never been there. Like, when did Sam Darnold ever have a fall from grace? Like, okay, I get it. He played for the Jets. Adam Gase. It was terrible. He has had a pretty damn shitty hand. Like, to be honest, it's pretty bad hand. But again, it's like it's not like he really showed much of anything. You know, that's
Blake
really
Bortles had a bad hand in Jacksonville. He still sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have a good hand or a bad hand. If you're not good, it doesn't change anything. You're just not good.
That's true, because you can always still like look at least show something. And I think
show something.
Even when he's shown something last year in that stretch, it's not like they're really propping up like 180-yard passing 2-touchdown game.
There was no pressure on Sam Darnold last year, man. They're trying to act. They were 3-8. He can't. Whatever, dude. You start week 1 in Pittsburgh. That's a lot of pressure, man. Don't mess up. And the way I look at Sam Darnold as a quarterback is the way I look at like SpongeBob as a driver. You know, SpongeBob, he went to driving school and he would take all the notes and they always thought like, okay, he's ready now. And he'd get behind the wheel and he would immediately crash. Like, that's what's going to happen. It's not ready, man. He's SpongeBob.
I'm ready. No.
That's Sam Darnold. I'm ready. That's Sam Darnold.
All right, so who's Patrick then? Who's the dunce friend that's there just riding along? Is it Kittle or McCaffrey, since they're hanging out with him at the Warriors games or something like that? They're trying to like prop him up when he's not actually a better player. You got it, Tim. I don't know. I can't do that voice. I can't do that one.
I would have to say yes. Barry Baller 18 says, when's the next time you get to see players on the field? Next week. I think they practice 3 times and they have the media available for one. Haven't said which day yet. I'm gonna try to find out. They're
gonna cancel practices again too. That's another thing. Back to that old question and why it doesn't matter. Like I got someone trying to get on my noodle recently talking about, OT. You don't think OTAs matter? I was like, yeah, it matters. It's little to nothing, and the very little, the one thing is just the quarterback reps. Because
really last year they got in trouble, right? Diamador, someone got in trouble for excessive press coverage. Excuse me.
What was last year?
Bump and run coverage, and I think they lost to. Maybe that was 2 years ago. They also 2 years ago they got was it Daniel Brunskill? Like 3 guys injured in one practice. Like
no, it was
Justin School.
Third one.
If
there was a third one, it was very minor. But
Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson in the locker room, standing up, tore up his knee. Remember that? Standing up in the locker room. Jeff Wilson. Yeah, minicamp. So they got to have people not tear their knees in the locker room.
Yeah.
That's important.
Okay. No, all 3 of them were 2 years ago. Last year was okay for once. Okay. That was when 2021, all the heat was coming on them. That was when they're getting lit up.
So last year was that the year they just canceled practice? Like, hey, we're good. We're going to start off 3-4 for fun.
I remember 2021, it was like, oh, we're going to cancel anyway. It's like, no, it sounds like you guys took it away. And then they've been canceling it now. So again, that's the thing. Like they say 14, but they do 11. They don't care. They want it.
That was the best part. Yeah, when the NFL took away a practice and Kyle's like, well, we didn't want to practice anyway. That was the funniest thing he's ever said. I love when he does stuff like that. We didn't want it anyway.
So they just pretty much OTAs, all it is pretty much just like, all right, guys, let me see what you got in the playbook. Let's see how it goes. That's it. They're not really like.
My favorite part about OTAs is how Nick Bosa never shows up and no one on the Niners really cares. I love that. So funny.
Yeah, keep him away.
He's not really on the team. He's like an independent contractor. And he's an independent. Who?
Trent Williams, George Kittle.
No, I feel like Kittle will be there. He just won't like do anything. Like Fred Warner will show up. Like Nick Bosa's like, I'll see you guys when I absolutely have to be there. Otherwise, I'm chilling in Florida. No, I'm not going to be there. I'm not spending an hour more in Santa Clara than I need to. Thank you very much. And you have a problem with that, you're welcome to trade me. Because every freaking team would love to have this business arrangement with me. I love that about Nick Bosa. It's hilarious to me. No one can say anything to him.
From here. You don't want him to get pulled over looking lit because that's what he did. He looked. I watched that video. I was like, there's no way this guy is sober. This guy is no way. He probably took an Eddie or something. I don't know what he did. There's no.
Whoa, I don't know. I don't know. But I do think it's funny that within like 5 seconds, he was like, hey, yeah, play for the 49ers.
That's what had me rolling. I was like, what the fuck does this matter?
Nice, dude. Nice. Like, if you have to say I play for the 49ers, like, you should be more famous than that, right? Like, you're Nick Bosa. You're the man in South Florida, right? They know who you are. You had to throw out a Northern California football team for clout? Come on. You should be able to be like, you know who my dad is, right?
He should put that on the bumper. I play for the 49ers.
That was hella funny. Hey, at least it worked. I think he got it. He's good. Glass half full guy says, as a fan, I'm curious, can players get together with coaches outside of the facility and study the playbook, practice, etc.?
No.
I think that's against the rules.
Against the rules. Players can get together, though.
Because if you could, then there would be all kind of pressure from coaches to do that every day. Coaches are crazy. Yeah, they don't stop. So, yeah, there's a rule against it.
But the players can, like, they can group together. Like, it could be like, you know, like Trey Lance, IU. It could be like 5. Like, that's cool. Players can do that. Just can't be no coaching.
Coming back to this topic one more time, because we're done, essentially, it kind of alarms me how the Niners are so bad at evaluating quarterbacks. The guy is a good, it's like, they're talking about 8 games of Brock, 6 games of Darnold, and 4 games of Trey, and they're taking it all like they can, like, you don't know anything. You got nothing on 3 quarterbacks. You basically have, well, you got a lot on Sam Darnold, but you're focusing on nothing for 6 games, and you're making a big deal out of 8 games and a big deal out of 4 games. Like, no wonder you suck at evaluating this position.
Beathard, all the quarterbacks you passed on that first year.
They just don't see the big picture of this position, I don't think.
You know what's the crazy part? No, they don't. Hell no. You know what's the crazy part? Brock Purdy is so far I would say is the best looking one that they've quote unquote are going with or evaluated. You know, it's the best looking one. I would say. Again, limited sample size. Maybe he falls off. Probably does fall off because he's rehabbing. He's not really working.
A serious injury. It's actually what sucks about the Brock Purdy story is he could have been their fairy tale savior, you know what I mean? Like King Arthur out of nowhere type, Kurt Warner guy, and they broke him. Like, this could be a lot more serious than the Niners have let on. I mean, it's their job to project confidence, and they don't really know, so why say anything else? But this could have ruined him, which would be really sad. I hope not.
It just goes back to what we've said, like, since the offseason started with the 49ers, like with Trey Lance, like what changed with Trey Lance? What changed all these guys? And it's like they just don't care. They just want to see, like, their goals change like year by year with what they want to do to the quarterback. And again, like you said, it's big picture. It's like 2021, you know, it was reported they're okay with Trey Lance developing and losing some games. And I was like, you know what? Now we're not okay. We saw Brock, you know, we're good, even though we spent it. It's just the evaluation process so much with these guys. Again, it's like they really thought Trey could have been that guy so much faster. And again, if Trey gets that week 1 start, I'm still expecting him to look pretty rookie-ish early on, depending on how many starts he gets, because that's what he needs. He needs those plays. He's not going to get that much better from playing in the same training camp system. It's not like they definitely fumbled in terms of bringing him up.
Okay, I got a theory. Roll with me on this one. So, Louis Riddick talking about someone who I trust completely, implicitly when it comes to the quarterback play, talking about Sam Darnold. Mm-hmm. Man, he worked with Brian Griese. I don't know, but if Brian Griese is whispering to his friends big praise about Sam Darnold, is it possible that it's a coaching tactic that last year the Niners just anointed Trey Lance and got Jimmy out of there, and it didn't really work. And this year they feel what's really important is not anointing Trey and trying to – so what they can do is build up Sam Darnold's confidence since he needs it. Otherwise, he has no chance. And put a chip on Trey Lance's shoulder and see what happens. Because anointing Trey didn't work. We saw all the pictures and videos of what he was doing last offseason. It doesn't seem like he was really attacking it the way he is now. He wasn't working out with Patrick Mahomes last offseason. Now he is.
But it also turns out his finger was still bumming him too, and I guess he was lying to you guys. Apparently, he was lying to you guys. According to Shanahan, Dwight Clark thing, he said, "Oh yeah, his finger, like okay, wow, that was a nice little nugget you dropped there." So I guess Trey was lying because I remember he kept saying, I think to you, he's like, "Oh, my finger, man, come on, man, it's all good." And apparently, it was not all good, or maybe it was at the end of his healing, and then he just needed so many reps just to finally get back to that original throwing motion. Which again shows why that viral video he had where he's working out with Patrick Mahomes, it's like, damn, that's the tightest spiral that fool's thrown since probably ever with the 49ers. And it's wondering why everything's like aligning. So, but I do think the same thing, anointing part does work. I think it's a whole stack of things that just went against him.
Like, if Darnold's going to have any chance, you have to build up his confidence the way Harbaugh did with Alex Smith. So you got to say, you're good. And it's not just like tell it to his face. because probably a lot of people have tried that. Like, whisper it off the record to people.
Yeah.
He's good. He's good. And the side effect of that is Trey Lance hears it and is like, oh, like, do they actually like Sam Darnold more than me? And it lights a fire under him that didn't seem to be there last year because he was 22 and he thought he had the whole future ahead of him. And now it's like, nah, Brock's in front of you and Darnold could pass you too. Like, well, you really need to outperform this guy right now. And frankly, you should be able to. So do it.
That's plausible because the goal right now isn't to beat out Brock. He's not there. It's to beat out Sam. That's the
beat
one
out
he
Sam.
needs to put in his sights. And
if you can't beat out Sam, we can't sell you to the locker room, dude. You got to beat out Sam. And what we're going to do is we're going to pump up Sam so that if you beat out Sam, it seems like a big accomplishment. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it is, but that seems like 4D chess. I don't know. I don't think people are that strategic.
Maybe. I don't know. You never know. You can never put it past the 49ers, the quarterback situation, So it's always annoying, but then again, this is what they get for having such an instability at the position all these years.
If it ever works out for Trey Lance on this team or somewhere else, I'd love to hear his story about what happened these last few years. Like, dude, who was in your corner? Who wasn't? What the hell happened? But for us to ever hear that story, he's going to have to become good. And even if he does, he might be above it and might not say anything about it. But I'd like to know.
You probably would.
Alex Smith spilled the tea about early in his career, eventually when he became a success. So I'd like to hear that. Glass half full guy says, I'm convinced Kyle never leaks to the media, in my honest opinion. That's where I'm coming from, too. I feel like Kyle is sort of like Aaron Rodgers, where he's just has kind of disdain for the Rappaports and the Schefters and doesn't want to play that game, doesn't feel he has to play that game because he's so, cemented in his spot in the NFL. He doesn't have to, I don't know, that's the way I look at it. But there might be other people in the organization who like talking. I don't know.
I think he's selective with it because Aaron Rodgers definitely leaks too. I remember it was like a year ago or something like that where who reported? Rappaport reported something about Aaron's not a decision yet or something like that about retiring again, whatever about a trade. And it was like, wait, who's even asking about this? Oh, wait, it sounds like Aaron's texting Rappaport saying, say this and report it, let it out there. So I think it's all selective. It's only good. They're all friends when it's to their benefit, but then once everything starts getting drawn out, but they start getting PO'd about it.
But I just can't ignore the fact that the Niners have 2 ex-announcers in their franchise, in their staff, like really prominent announcers. John Lynch was an announcer for Fox. Brian Griese was an announcer for ESPN. These guys are media guys. They were media guys before they became GMs or coaches. And they know a lot of media guys. They worked at ESPN and Fox. So all of a sudden, it's like, I don't know. How do you not wonder if they're talking to their myriad of friends in the media, right? Like, I don't know. I have no idea, but that's such an obvious question to have, especially if you're a player wondering, who's talking about me? Is it my coach?
Who else Lewis could possibly be talking about that he has connections with?
It makes you wonder.
It is the most. I
don't think Lewis is talking to Kyle. When Rappaport is trying to read the tea leaves, I don't think he's talking to Kyle. But if you told me he talked to John or Brian Griese, I'd be like, okay, well, I don't know. Sounds possible. I doubt it's Kyle, though. And to me, Kyle's the one who makes the freaking call. So I don't really care what anyone else thinks or who they're talking to. You're not talking to Kyle, most likely. So I think my read on him is that it's 33-30. Like, he's equally open with all these quarterbacks. I don't care. You guys make the decision with your play. You do it. Go ahead.
This is why I like reading with his actions, not what Kyle says. Just seeing, again, back to
he has nice things to say about all 3 of them. You ask him about Sam? Yeah, love him. You ask about Trey? Yeah, love him. He would have been great last year. Ask about Brock? Wow, what a player. Okay, see what you got. And that's I don't know. What's wrong with that?
That's why I would expect, but wouldn't be shocked. Again, I think they're going to split the reps with Trey and Darnold, if not give Trey the slight edge. But again, that's where it gets the convincing. It's like, okay, Kyle's going to tell you what he thinks with OTAs and how he runs these guys. That's the main takeaway. And so that's why I think it's going to be the most intriguing. Like, you're going to go there and be like, it's day 4 of OTAs. Darnold took most of the first team reps. What the hell? And it's like, oh God, is it already over before it starts? So that's what it's like. There's so much that's going to.
If that happens, it's bad. If Darnold gets ever gets more reps than Lance, it's bad.
Especially this early.
Yeah. I think my expectation is Lance is going to get most, if not all, the first team reps in OTAs because he's been here 3 years and Darnold's been here 3 months. If that,
Darnold might not be able
2
to
months.
might not be like cognizant or embedded in the
Right.
playbook enough to even run that many reps in practice.
Correct.
Anyway.
So I'm expecting Lance gets most of those reps. The question is, where does it start? Let's say he gets 75% of the reps to start. If he starts getting less and less, is that because he's not playing well? Is it because Darnold's learning more? Is it because Darnold's playing well? Like, that's going to be very interesting. People are going to chart that every day. Yeah.
So that's why I think this was going to be the most. That's going to be a thing that add to your notes. Now it's like who gets more reps. That's the thing that's always going to be key, and it starts with OTAs. That's going to be the first thing that tells you, because this is the thing you start tracking, and you track it into training camp and see where the chart takes you, and see if you got a flowing wherever it goes. You start a bar graph of this thing if you want to. I mean,
honestly, like what I got to do is I did it the last couple of years. I want to say is in addition to the good and the not so good, you got to do a whole thing on just the quarterback competition day one. And it's like it's a breakout, because that's what people want to know. You can't bury that quarterback competition, the exact stats for each guy, the exact reps, who they were going up, what team, all that stuff. You got to do that every day. And you got to be watching for all the other players at the same time. It's hard, man. But no one wants to hear your excuses. Play like a champion. Rule 114.
It's because the Niners don't want me there to look at the other stuff.
You'll be there. I'll get you there for some of those practices. I mean, if Brett Coleman can get there. Sven says, do you think Ja'Cour Pearson would be a sleeper to make a serious impact on this roster?
Who?
They haven't signed him yet. Which kind of annoys me. No one signed him. What does he have to do? This guy's been cooking people left and right since he left Ole Miss.
Is that the Twitter guy? The Twitter wide receiver?
No. XFL guy. Sea Dragons.
Oh.
The Twitter guy got signed by the Niners.
No, yeah.
And I thought the XFL guy had a better Ricky Minicamp. No disrespect to calling him the Twitter guy.
What's his name? Just so I can stop disrespecting.
Isaiah Winstead.
Okay, there we go.
Winstead's big, looks good in his pads. Caught a 10-yard pass. Ja'Cour looks small, looks awkward in his pass. But Ja'Cour's fast as hell.
If he looks good in OTAs, he's going to be a player going to.
He's not going to be there. He's not on the team. They have to sign him. I'm upset. They better. Jose, good show. Thank you very much. Everyone, thanks for watching. I'll be back tonight with Jesse late night, which is 6:00 Pacific. Late night. So stay up.
So
see you guys in. Yep. Early. Yeah, we're kind of like before dinner. See you guys.
For dinner.